you everybody for coming out today. It's so great to see so many wonderful faces. I wasn't sure who would show up today. I knew that there was a football game going on, so I'm always competing with that. And then the wind, I knew was going to be maybe a factor. But it's a wonderful fall day, so I'm glad that everybody decided to stop in and join us here at the Blanden. So a couple of things. Remember, a really great way to follow what we're doing here is to become a member of the Blanden Art Museum. There's a couple of different ways to do that. You can do it online, or we have some pamphlets that are in the east entrance and at the front desk. And if that's something that interests you, we can make sure that we get you signed up, and you get all the postcards for every exhibit. We come into the mail to you. You get the quarterly newsletter or the publication that we produce that has all the exhibits, events, art classes, and everything else in between. So if that's something that interests you, there's a couple of different ways to do that. Also, too, you can like us and follow us on Facebook. We do a lot of things on our Facebook page. So that's a really great way to keep in touch with what's going on, especially sometimes we just do spur-of-the-moment things, and that's a great way to stay engaged with the museum that way. And then also, too, we have a YouTube channel, which this reception will be eventually put onto that YouTube channel, so you can go back and watch past artist receptions and artist talks that we've done. We've basically been doing this since really 2019, 2020 during COVID. We started recording a lot of things, and so we just kind of try to continue it on and continue to build our channel. Otherwise you can always go to our website too. We keep all our information on our website. So there's a lot of different ways to keep engaged with the museum. But then also too, coming to the museum and looking at the artwork and being part of the museum experience is really great too. Another big thing I want to put on everybody's calendar is the December 14th. We do what is called the Holiday Open House, and it's basically an event where we welcome the community in. We'll have food, and we have a couple of performers performing holiday-based music, and it's a really great event that kind of brings together the community and the art museum, and it's totally free for you to show up and do that. So put that on your calendars. It's December 14th, and it runs from 3 to 6. And then along with that, right now we've been doing an online silent auction, and so that silent auction will end on the 14th at 5 o'clock. And so if you go onto our website, there's a little button at the top. You can select that, and you can see all the amazing artwork from both local and historical artists that have been donated to the museum. That were basically, the silent auction is to raise funds for our future development of the community gallery that we're trying to open next to our new art education center. So we're just trying to keep expanding what we can provide to the community in different ways. So keep that all on your calendars and in your information, and hopefully we'll get some new bidders on some really great artwork through the silent auction. There's plenty to choose. I think there's like over 40 some items to choose from, and they're really, really fantastic. With that, I'll stop selling you stuff and introduce you to the artist that's featured in this amazing gallery. So, if I'm going to mess it up, I know I am. Bill Stamats. Yes. Bill Stamats. So I think, and I can't, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm always on the lookout for new artists. And so there's a couple of different ways that I bring in artists to exhibit here at the museum. One way is that they send me stuff, and I look at it, and if I find it interesting, it goes into one pile, which I call my stable. The other way is that I think this is how did I reach out to you, or did you reach out to me?
I sent you a proposal.
Okay.
And then you said, "Ooh, I like the barns."
Right. Because I think I saw him at the state fair, not this last summer, but I think in previous state fairs.
Yes.
And I made a note of it. And so I think when you sent me something, I connected the dots. So I've been kind of aware of Bill for a while, especially because I go to the Iowa State Fair every summer because I have kids in 4-H. And so I'm really glad to have Bill here and have a couple barn paintings in the show.
Yeah, you wanted all barns and said, I sold them.
So I'm glad that we have at least two, but the rest of the work is fantastic. And with that, I will turn it over to Bill. So let's give Bill a good round of applause.
My last name, other than being a palindrome, defies all love's pronunciation. It is Stamats, so long A's. And this show, Two of a Kind, really is sort of it's a retrospective of sorts, I think, because it's showing sort of a body of work from the past 10 years. And different theme and variation. I tend to work in theme and variation. So I did a series, I walk a lot. So, and there's a trail by my house called Stack Fox Trail. So I did a whole series of like what I saw on the trail. That's where the hummingbird came from, the different stumps, the invasive species of sweet, whatever that is. Anyway, briar, that sort of stuff. I've attempted to do a series of like abstract pieces. I think it's very easy to make an abstract painting. It's very difficult to make a really good abstract painting. Right? I think it's very hard to do. I did a whole series of sort of trophies, so that's where the horns came in, and then and then I did a whole series of chandeliers. I don't know why I did the chandeliers. I was playing with light, but it was kind of fun to do. So I did all of that. But I can talk about all this, and I hope you guys ask me questions. But before I do that, I can give you a little background on myself. So born and raised in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Went to school there, but for high school, I ended up going to boarding school. I went to Deerfield Academy in Massachusetts, and for 3 years suffered through wearing a coat and tie every day to class. And that school was very, very athletic oriented and math and science oriented. Which was fine, and I was good with that. And I swam, I played lacrosse, I played soccer, and I discovered the art room the last semester of my senior year, and said, well, this is the coolest thing ever. I didn't know we could do this stuff. My dad collected art. We did have a lot of art books in our house, so of course I never read them. I just looked at the pictures, but. So I decided that maybe I should eventually go to art school. So I spent a year at Lewis and Clark College in Portland, Oregon, and loved Portland. And of course, I was there before it became sort of the super hipster place it is now. Put together a portfolio there and shopped around, looked at art schools, and ended up in New York City. I went to Pratt Institute and lived in New York City. And Pratt was pretty gritty. It was down in a bad area of Bedford-Stuyvesant, New York. There was razor wire around the campus. It was a lot different than my prep school experience. It was pretty cool. I loved it. And I worked part-time at the New Museum of Contemporary Art, and then it was down in Soho. And then I also worked for a printmaker, a woman named Kathy Caraccio, and she printed artist work. So she would get these famous artists in and print their work for them. And I said, well, I'm going to go to grad school to be a printmaker, and I did. So I left New York. After 5 years in New York, I said, I'm done with this, and went to the University of Wisconsin in Madison, and got my MA there, and then got my MFA in printmaking at the University of Iowa. So that's my background there. And then immediately did teaching at another prep school for 3 years outside of Pittsburgh, and then came back to Cedar Rapids to raise my family. And said, well, I can't do art for a while because I have no money. So I worked for a couple different businesses and eventually worked for our family business, which is a marketing business for a college and university. So I did that for 25 years, ran that business with my brother. So we had any given time 60 higher education clients from across the country, and then worked with about 20 healthcare clients. And that business is still going. It's 101 years old now, that business. But I retired in October, so it's kind of nice not to be doing that anymore. Anyway, I always made art though. I continue to make art. I think that it's been an important part of my life. So even though I was working full-time running this business, I would do artwork on the weekends, and so that's what I was doing. So all this comes from that. So that's my brief background and in terms of my art and what I've done in my life. But then out of that comes this body of work. So I'm hoping that people will ask me questions because it's easier for me to answer questions that relates to my artwork than yes, please.
Are you influenced by Joseph Cornell?
I am very much influenced by Joseph Cornell, yeah. So I didn't make art for a while when the kids were young, when you're a chauffeur, you're taking kids to every, athletic event or whatever. So for about 10 years I didn't make art. And then I said, how do I get back into making art? I didn't feel confident that I could draw again, right? So it's like, how do I get back into this? So I started doing the assemblages, and I started doing the boxes, and I love Cornell. So I started doing those sorts of things. That's very key, yes. So there's that. So I actually have a show that will be boxes at the Stamats Museum of Art, and I have to make them still. 2026, so that's coming.
Do you have enough ephemera?
Oh, I do, and I've got a lot of ideas, and thank God for Pinterest, because I'm looking at a lot of Pinterest right now, yeah. More questions, please.
I think your titles are very interesting, and I'd like to hear how you choose to name some of these.
Well, a lot of it, the titles are important, right? And they come from where I am at that particular place in time. With the abstracts in particular, the abstracts are, I'm using sound as my, and I'm actually, when I'm listening to particular music when I'm working, that's influencing the abstract pieces. So, all the abstracts have sound-like titles to them. So this one is, don't shout at me from across the room when I'm standing right here. Like, that's kind of about that, That was, when you heard the clicks, I'm not sure I like that title, I may change it. So that's kind of how that came about. He was where he would be, is sort of this personification of a really pissed off little bird that's not going to leave where it is. So that's kind of, when I did these paintings and I did the little creatures, I was always thinking about some human that I knew that had a certain particularly personality characteristic, and I would use that in the painting. So, yeah. All of these are acrylic. I mainly work on wood. I've got a few that are on canvas, but most of them are on wood. I like the hard surface. I'm a printmaker, so that's why I like that hard surface. I'm used to gouging out pieces of copper to make intaglio prints or whatever. Anyway, that's why I do these. I love printmaking, but it's such a tedious process and such a laborious recipe to follow that painting's so immediate, so I've been doing a lot of painting because it's just so immediate and wonderful to do. Yes, Angela.
Bill, do you believe that the future of your art is going to be more assemblages, or is it going to go back to printmaking some more?
Thank you for asking. So there's a couple things I'm playing with right now. I will probably go back to do monotypes. So monotypes are unique prints, right? There's something about the residue of print ink on paper that I like a lot, and monotypes have a certain feel to them, so I may go back and do those. Will I do edition prints? Probably not. Another thing I'm looking at is when I begin to do more of these assemblages, I've been looking at, I will probably do little paintings inside the assemblages. So there'll be that. And I really want to start to experiment around with encaustic, because I think that feel, that wax that's encaustic will have a really nice look and feel with the assemblages. So I'm going down that path. I have never done encaustic, so I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to learn. I hope I don't burn my house down.
Has the date for that show in Cedar Rapids been set?
It'll run May of 2026 through the summer to like August. Yeah.
2026.
Yeah. They're that far out with their just like Eric is. I mean, yeah.
At the art museum?
Yeah, the Cedar Rapids Museum of Art. Yeah. Yes, please.
This is just a very general question, but what's behind the boats?
So,
Because there's so much water.
there's a lot of water.
Horizon lights, and then there's a lot of deep water.
There's a lot of deep water, yeah. So that's sort of That's the metaphor, right? I want you to feel lonely and lost with those pieces, right? And it's really awkward. They're not working with the drips because the drips are kind of in front, but that's okay with me. I don't really care that that's the way it is because the metaphor is there for me that's working that way, right? So, yeah. So I with a number of pieces, and I had a whole series that I did of cars once that was just really, the cars were just a reason to play with horizon lines. I do like playing with the idea of horizon line.
Yeah, the car paintings did not make.
They did not make a show. We didn't think they were, well, they were just not quite there.
Well, and I had to cut something, so.
Right. Yes, Mike.
I really like your barns.
Yeah,
They were a very important part of farm life through about the 50s or 60s.
yes.
When agricultural production changed drastically.
Mhm.
But they really,
Thank you. I mean, I think people like old barns because of the character and they tell that story. They're part of our heritage. They're part of our corporate heritage. You know, people still have the old barn spirits. You can't fit equipment in it anymore. What do you do? So, but they're still kind of around. That's our, that painting was our family barn. So we have sort of a gentleman's farm outside of Cedar Rapids. And so that was a century barn that we had there, and I happened to take a bunch of photos of it. And then it got wiped out, raised by the derecho, so it no longer exists. So then I decided to do that painting, and then my wife had a gallery in Cedar Rapids called Black Earth Gallery, down in the Nouveau part of Cedar Rapids, sort of the hipster area. I displayed that painting, and I got so many comments on it. I was just like kind of amazed. I think it's probably because of what you're saying about it being part of our heritage and everything. People just respond to these barn paintings like, I can't believe. So I started doing, of course, a series of barn paintings. I started doing a series of barn paintings. So that's where all these came from. Yeah. But I started to kind of explore that. So now, if you look at my website, BillStamatesFineArt.com, you'll see I have a whole series of barns on there, and now I've been calling myself a neo-regionalist because I had to coin something for myself. It's good marketing. Yes.
2 comments. This morning we met here, and I said, your acrylic is so shiny. Did you put something over it?
Yeah, so that was a happy accident. As Bob Ross would say, there's no bad thing as there's no such thing as a mistake, only happy accidents, right? So I actually over-varnished a painting once, and I realized it was pulling up color from the back that I had down in the first layer, second layer of paint. So I said, I'm going to do that on these paintings, and so it is there. Then I also started to do this sort of thing where I'm using this framing element, and that was part of a series too. So you're creating that sort of proscenium stage idea, right? And then you're kind of looking through that varnish into the work of the paintings.
Then my second question, would you please tell us how you did that painting from start to finish? Where did you begin?
I first started that one. That was just a white gesso on a board, and then I started to play with ideas of it being an abstract, and then you don't see it here, but I use a lot of collage. Collage. So there's actually wrapping paper underneath here and Japanese paper, and so I start to build that up, and then I paint on that surface, right? I often use acrylics as watercolor, so it absorbs, the color absorbs into the paper, and then I'll put another layer, and I treat that collage, that paper, as a layer of paint. And then I'll put actual layer of paint on, and I'll start to build up, and then I start to see what I want out of it. This is collage. This element right here is not painted. So then I painted on top of it, right? And then I started to build it. And then at this time, I had just come away from doing the boxes, the assemblages, so I was still in that mode. So then I end up with the faux jewels on here, right? So eventually I moved away from that, but that's kind of where that came from. So a lot of these, there's a piece over there called He Was the Fly on the Wall. There is a fly in it. I will not tell you where it is. You have to try to find it, right? A lot of people see it right away. Some people are like, where? But But that has a lot of collage in it. You can see it underneath the surface too. So that acts as another layer for me on that. And then with these, I was playing the whole idea of stenciling. So those have the stencil idea. So sort of like some sort of Dutch china, you know, kind of idea, or wallpaper. Yes. More questions. I love questions. Questions are great. Yes.
Your concept for this show, was it, did you set out to do 2 paintings and were 2 of kind?
No.
Or was it you did one and then a pathway?
I thought of the idea of 2 of a kind because I don't think people want to see, you know, the whole kit and caboodle of like the 7 or 8 I did in the series. I think that it actually is more this variety and having just 2 that you can identify and put together, maybe, you know, 2 stumps or 2 paintings that have insects in them, or 2 paintings that are horns, is sort of that variety. I thought would be more compelling for a show, and that's how I came up with it. And I like the title 2 of a kind. It's not 1 of a kind, it's 2. So that was that. Yeah. Yes, Angela.
What does a typical artist day for you look like? How often do you work? Do you work exclusively at night? Like, what does it look like for you?
When I'm really in work mode, and I will tell you this, I think that being an artist is maybe 1/3 of my time is actually spent making art. I think I spend, well, I actually have another business. I'm an art appraiser, so I spend 1/3 of my time appraising artwork. I look at a lot of art all the time. And I am certified appraiser, by the way. And then I think 1/3 of my time is spent marketing and networking and sending proposals to Eric. So, you know, really, that's a lot of it. I think that you have to spend your time doing that. So I wish I could spend more time making art. I tend to work better in the mornings. That's just the way I am. I'm a morning person. After I do my morning walk and my huge Fitbit walk, I literally do 9.5, 10 miles a day. So I'll do that, and then I'll buckle down, and then I'll do probably 3 or 4 hours at a stretch doing artwork. And I generally like to work in a stretch, and then by about 8:30 at night, I'm old, I fall asleep in front of the TV, like people my age do. Yeah. So does that answer your question for you? Yeah.
Since I listen to music when I paint, what do you listen to?
A lot of music and a lot of new music. Probably stuff people here wouldn't like a lot. You know, huge fan of Radiohead, and been listening to a lot of contemporary stuff right now. Who do I like right now? I'm listening to Tommy Guerrero, who's a skateboard guy and does some really cool guitar work. I like Phoebe Bridger a lot. I'm listening to a lot of that right now. A lot of Sharon Van Etten, Big Thief. I'm listening to a lot of Big Thief right now. Yeah.
We need to talk afterwards. We need to get you to listen to some good.
Okay. But music's important. I always have music on. I always have music on. Yeah, when I'm working. Absolutely. Yeah. More questions, please. This is really great for me. I like that. Yes.
What is that sphere, the opaque white sphere? Is that something superimposed on that?
Well, this is when I was looking at germs, and I was looking, so I thought this is sort of under the microscope. So that was my idea with it. This is during the pandemic. So I've been doing that series right there. So that's where that came from. I did a series of this, and this is the one that turned out the best.
Is that white
It is.
painted, or is it something you cut out and
No, it's
stuck
white
out?
painted. It's white painted. And so I took a scraper, a tool, and made that shape with it. So I actually rolled the paint on with a brayer. I taped out around it with my favorite, I use yellow frog tape, you know, and then painted it, and then I did the scraper in there to kind of create the dimensionality.
Very effective.
Thank you. It creates a depth. I really try to create as much depth as I can with these pieces.
So is the varnish an oil-based?
No.
On top of the?
No, it's all acrylic, everything's acrylic. I used to do oil painting, and then my lungs and my health said, no, you really shouldn't be doing oil painting anymore. That's just not healthy.
But the acrylic varnish will lift colors from?
It does, yeah, it absolutely will pull that up. Yeah, are you an artist?
Yeah.
Yeah, try it, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, but I'm layering now, just thin layers, so it'll pull
So
that
you
stuff.
use that for effect?
Yeah, you can see, if you look closely, you can see how there's color way down there, and it's coming up from the surface. Yeah, yeah.
Now that varnish, is it a two-part or is it,
I do 3 or 4 layers of varnish.
but is it like a polyacrylic, like a bar top
Yeah,
kind of
yeah, it's
mixture?
just, no, it's not
Okay.
even any of that. It's
Okay.
just, it's just a regular acrylic medium. I thin it down
Okay.
and then just put more layers on top. So I
Is it
thin it
called
with
a
water.
varnish or a gel?
No, it's a varnish. And I'll thin it and then I'll just put successive layers down until I get to where I want. I backed off on it more. Some of these you'll see as super varnished, but like the barns now are less varnished. People are like, I'm not sure I want to buy that. I'm like, back off on that then. Yeah.
Now with your barn ones too, it was noticed that you have always like an element that kind of goes off
I do.
the page. You
I
want to
do.
talk a little bit
Yeah,
more?
like, the wire over there, and then, top of that one. And the barn paintings really, in my mind, and I look at a lot of art. I'm looking at art all the time. So there are certain artists that just strike my fancy. I really like my earlier pieces that are here. I was looking at a lot of Ross Bleckner's work. He's a great painter. Enrique Martinez Celaya, I was looking at him for some pieces. So I'm always looking at contemporary art, contemporary people. I actually was looking at Rothko when I started doing these barns. You don't really see it, but the fact is I kind of view them as color field paintings, right?
Yeah.
So if I took out all the detail of the barn, and of course I want you to focus on the details of the barn because that's the hierarchy of the piece, right? It's all about the detail of the barn. That's what intrigues people with these. But if I took all that out and just had brown roof and then a striped roof of orange, red, and then white, and orange, red, and then the blue background, they would be colorful paintings, right? They'd be Rothko-like, right? So, I'm so intrigued with Rothko. I think he's just an amazing painter. And it's really all about his edges. And edges are very important to me when I'm making paintings, right? Those edges and how they come together from different positive and negative shapes, that's really important to me. So I
Yeah.
really play those edges.
You're talking this space, these spaces are really important to this.
Very important to the piece.
Yeah.
Very important to the piece. And the direction of the brush stroke too. So these skies are going, they're going horizontally across, and most of the painting is a vertical painting in a sense, even though it's a horizontal painting. But the barn itself is a vertical piece, right? This piece over here, you're playing with the horizontals and verticals of that too, and the texture. So what happens with all these, with this barn painting, there's the texture. But all of my paintings are all about texture too. Either physical texture, which is less so, or actual texture. I think probably those stump paintings really represent that idea of messing around with texture a lot, right? And trying to represent the bark in the best way I can.
Back
Yes.
to the barn, did you freelance those lines?
Most of them, yes. I actually, I don't know if I can really completely paint a straight line. So I really use some frog tape here and there to get a straight line. I'm not perfect about it. So I do actually work from photographs, and I do actually do the old-fashioned grid method. Yeah. So I'll set them up that way. But then I will tape out some of the stuff that needs to be a straight line.
And a lot of the work has like a graphic, I'm going to say like a graphic novel sense, or like there's a kind of a weird presence in terms of how the image is produced. Like, can you talk a little bit more? Are you interested in, like comic books or graphic novel?
I'm
or
not. That's
that
not
kind
where,
of
it's not my
approach?
inspiration.
Okay.
for some reason, and my wife says this to me, she says, somehow you get a narrative in your paintings, and I don't know how I do it. It just comes out. So I can't tell you why that exists, but I do know it.
Yeah.
I know that there's a narrative aspect to these. Yeah.
'Cause I see I see it in multiple, even like the chandeliers, the stump ones, and so it's present in a lot of the paintings. This kind of underlining kind of story that
There is a story, there is a
Yeah.
narrative there, yeah. So, I think I was talking to you earlier about the fact that when I produce these pieces, I'm doing it for a certain reason. Like I see something when I was walking on the trail, I'm like capturing a photograph, and I'm gonna paint that. I paint it, I know where I'm coming from with that painting, but I don't think an artwork is complete until the viewer sees it, and the viewer is going to bring their own interpretation to it, and that's complete the cycle. Then all of a sudden, I lose some ownership of the painting because the ownership becomes, the audience is the viewer's ownership too, right? We see that in music all the time, right? Who owns Happy Birthday anymore, right? So it's become all of ours, right? That's that aspect of being an artist. So, one of my favorite musicians, Jeff Tweedy, says that he creates a song for Wilco and then it becomes everyone's song, right? So. More questions? Yes.
So playing on that concept
Yes.
of how it becomes everybody else's, is there some particular art that's just for you, that's no one else's, it's only for you privately in your own home, no one else sees it? Or do
No.
you create stuff?
No, I create for others. I would not actually do a work of art. Maybe a sketchbook, I have some stuff in there, but no, I'm producing for people to look at it. That's just me. I know some people do that. They don't care if someone else sees it or not, but I want people to react to it, both positively and negatively, hopefully mostly positively.
Can you tell us the story behind the chandelier?
So,
On your walk, you went through a haunted house or?
well, yeah, isn't that kind of wonky, right? That one actually this is my daughter's painting. That's why it's not for sale. She's a big personality. I actually did this based on someone who's pretentious, but that was part of how I got it going. But then my daughter really loved this, so I said, this is for her. But it was really based on someone I knew who was super pretentious, and I think that's how we kind of did this. So that's why the title is, they knew it was all about her big chandelier. But anyway, my daughter loves that. My daughter directs operas for a living, so she's kind of that. She's sort of this opera person,
That's one of the few pieces that's framed, isn't it?
It is. It is, and it kind of had to be. I kind of wanted that sort of opulent, textury thing with that one. Yeah, absolutely
Enhances
right.
it.
Yeah, it enhances the piece, and it's on campus. So I only have 3 in here that are on campus. That one, and the little bird. Yeah. So the hummingbird, that's persona. That's my wife, who also has a big personality. She's a little person who's very busy and determined and lover for it, and so her purpose is big, right? But also hummingbirds, they're great pollinators, and so we need just more of them. So that's where that came from.
Do you have a way to create your own boards? Are these solid?
No,
boards?
I'm buying these from Dick Fleck, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah.
So none of them are custom sized?
None of them are custom sized. I custom sized the image to the board, so the other way around.
Any other questions?
Any other
Phil?
questions?
What did you use for the streaks in the hummingbird? What is that? Over?
I think I'm a pretty good, I will say that I am the master of white overpainting. And so I did a white overpaint on that piece. And then I dripped a whole bunch of water while it was still wet, alla prima. I dripped water on it, and those streaks are from the paint running off and all over on the floor of my studio. Yeah, so it works though. So I'll use drips, I'll use streaks. That hummingbird emerging, it needed to emerge out of something, and that's why I did the drips and the splatters on that one in particular.
Tell us about your studio. Is it
It's
in
in my
your home?
basement.
In your basement?
Yes. So once the kids moved out, and they were down there, watching TV or whatever they were doing, I don't want to know. I took it over. So I had a studio space in a building in Cedar Rapids called the Cherry Building for a number of years. And then I decided, I'll just move home. I'll save a lot of money if I just work out of my basement. So I'm doing that right now. It's a nice space though. It's just big. A lot of space.
Well, if you have any other questions for Bill,
Please.
you can always grab them. We've
Yeah,
got plenty
please.
of time. But,
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah.
let's give him a round of applause. I have some food left. If not, you can pick up probably the little scraps. But I really want to say it was really great to have so many people come out today, and it's always nice to see so many faces that I recognize, but also a lot of new faces too, which is really fantastic. So hopefully we'll see you next time. That would be December 14th. And hopefully you put that in your phone and you have it marked, and you'll get a ding when it comes up. And you'll probably, if you're a member, you'll be getting a postcard in the mail just to kind of remind you. So, but again, thank you for coming today, and enjoy the rest of the show, and then also the other exhibits. We've got some really fantastic ones. So thank you very much.
Thank you.